Hi everyone. So as we already discussed about cost of poor quality and effective and efficiency measures in our last video, so I want to discuss about 8 wastes, which includes NVAs, that is non-value adds, and I wanted to discuss about these 8 wastes, and rest will proceed that further with the other pointers. Okay, so the first one is that defects. So as we already know that if there is a process, then there must be defects. So defects is a sort of waste only. So if there is a defect in a process, it leads to the waste. Overproduction. So whatever is producing, happening in any industry or the organization, that leads to the overproduction, which leads to the waste, which is not adding value to the customers' expectations or the requirements from the product or the service. Waiting. So waiting leads to again the waste, because we are waiting for one process to be taken care by the another process. So this is the way that it leads to a waste, which leads to a non-value adds. Non-utilized skills. So suppose if one person is working on something, but his or her skills are not utilized in that particular work, that is also leads to a waste. Transfer. Suppose you are transferring some product from one place to another just to proceed further with the process. So that includes the waste if there is an unnecessary transfer or transportation is taking place. Inventory. If there is a required as less inventory, but there is more, which leads to the overproduction, that leads to waste. Motion is also that if one in a process map, see, we have the product or a service which is going to a different motion or a different direction, that leads to also a waste, which is not following up with the exact timing to be provided to the customer. Another one is excessive processing. So if processing time is more, again it leads to the overproduction and waste and weight as well. Another point which I'm talking about is what is downtime. Downtime is nothing but downtime is the acronym of waste leads to downtime. So waste or defects leads to the downtime, which is the acronym of 8 wastes. It leads to D as in defects, O as in overproduction, W as in waiting, N as in non-utilized skills, T as in transfer, I as in inventory, M as in motion, E as in excessive processing. So this leads to the same thing. Process maps. So process maps are nothing but it includes, process map is something, suppose you are following a process, then it needs to be mapped, right? How the things should be in a process, that leads to a process map. We must having a blueprint to follow further, right? So this is what we are doing it inside the measure phase. Displays process activities, right? Help identify roles and responsibilities, identify dependencies and bottlenecks, helps to understand process and technology related requirements. It means how the process should move further, right? So this is basically nothing but it leads to the process, how it should move further, that leads to the process map. Taking the example of process map is how customer calls, how agent responded, how queries resolved. So this is a process, right, which needs to be done actually, that leads to a process map. VSM, we're talking about the VSM, that is nothing but value stream mapping. So this is basically included, it is a technique used to document and analyze the flow of information on materials required to produce a product or a service, to identify and eliminate waste. Obviously this is a value stream mapping, is basically includes that process maps. The blueprint is ready, now how the things are actually happening. So process map is that should ideally happen on the floor, and value stream is that actually happens on the floor. So it includes non-value adds, essential non-value adds, V as in value adds. If I'm talking about the example here, you have to listen it carefully. I'm taking the example of, suppose a customer called, right? So the agent responded to it, and now agent put the customer is on hold, right? And on the other hand side, he needs to confirm some information from his or her colleague. That is the essential non-value added work. It needs to be there, right? If that person is instead of gathering the information, he is just gossiping with the another colleague, just putting the customer on hold. That means it is a non-value add, it's not adding value. You are putting the customer on hold, you are getting the information, you are presenting the same in front to the another person, to the client on hold who is there on the client, right? So this is what is essential non-value added work. I hope this is clear to you.